What's up everyone, this is Cher talking, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to review the Romancing Festival Real Queens banner that brings the Real Queen, the inhuman versions of Kzinssie Dantarg. I don't think this banner offers too much value because what they offer has been seen before, although they may be good for those that skipped some key styles. Well, we're gonna start with the Real Queen, and the Real Queen is a real martial artist unit. Although there is an earth icon here, you should ignore since she does not use any sort of spell. Well, she has focus on agility, intelligence, and STR. Because she can still inflict ailments, that means that she needs intelligence for that, but agility and STR for damage and accuracy. She kinda suffers a little for having to focus on 3 different status, and her endurance and will are pretty bad. But she does have ways to buff her own status and reduce damage by one of her passive. That means that she will survive much better than many other martial artists. And there is an S style of her that you get from the event. This one has double arrows for intelligence and 1 arrow for STR. Okay, moving on. For passives, she has Queen's Body. This one increases her status by 5%, all of them, on the start of a turn, so it will even trigger before she does damage. And then there's 2 other effects. On the end of odd turns, that means turn 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, she gets 1 BP. This is good because it will allow her to use some interesting cycles. And on the end of even turns, that means turn 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and beyond, she will recover HP by small effect. It's small, not very small. That means that the HP heal will be more than 800, for example. So pretty off-stacked passives here. Then we move to the second Breath of Invigoration 1. When she's attacking, she recovers HP by around 170 with such charisma, and also recovers 1 BP. This will trigger on all of her attacks, so she recovers BP and HP, and that also allows her to use some good cycles. And you are healing 170 on turn 1, then on turn 2 you'll be healing 170 plus 800. That means that she will be healing for close to 1.2k in 2 turns. This allows her to solo the last floor on Spiral Corridor, since the healing out-damage the blunt damage and poison. Now, moving on, the last one is High Protect Tension. Decreases damage by 30%, that's how she survives well, and increases the damage that she inflicts by 20. Well, only 20% as damage passes, but I do like the kit here because in the end, she's pretty sustainable, heals herself, buffs, and that will allow her to be used in Remembrance Battle without having to be healed. She just does everything by herself, is a solo unit. Then, let's check the skills. The first one is Defense Liquid. For 0, you get a little more than a normal attack with the power in 11, blunt damage, and also casts Guard Up. This is actually pretty important in her cycle because you can choose if you want to cycle the skill number 2 or the skill number 3. One is a single target attack. Scales Buster is pretty close to triple S damage. It starts on 56. We have here a 54 mod attack. Then also brings a medium chance to paralyze and a medium chance to charm. That's why she does have very high charisma, because it's used to inflict charm, while the paralyze is using intelligence. She will be buffing both charm and intelligence status, so you get a little extra when you're trying to do this, but it's just single target. It can be used against herself when you are playing on Remembrance Battle Real Queen, and it will also be used in the future for a Remembrance Battle where you can inflict charm and confusion. But in that fight, you want to use an AoE attack, not just a single target, or else you have to use 2 characters with single target charm. And she's the first one to do that with martial arts. So, still okay for damage, although 9 BP is a little high. She can use it every 2 turns, but there are much better cycles for damage than the Scales Buster. Then the third attack is Queen Punisher for 9 BP, so you have the same setup. This one is a fast AoE attack with blunt damage, B power, and 24 mod. 24 mod may not seem that high, right? Because many of her AoE attacks that we use when opening are A powered or even higher now, but it does bring medium chance to stun, so being fast, bringing stun, it's actually pretty good. We do have cards that can do something similar, actually the same thing with a little lower damage, and that comes from Shira. Shira first style has it with her attack called Hymn of the Night Wind. It's 8, so 1 less, but it brings double elements, medium chance, but see, power only. Okay, but then we just got the second version of Shira, and this version can use that 2 times by inheritance, and she's also pretty defensive, she has morale up, she has protect tension. They kinda clash in this regard, and I do believe that the best attack from Real Queen is the third one, because fast and stun, besides having Shira, you can only find a Real Queen. The second attack, Paralyze and Charm, can be interesting, but it's not something you use every day. You can just bring her together on Rainbow Rangers and use Shira on the top, and then you can use your Real Queen in the agility position, and they can still work. It's just that you will not need this that much unless it's a very specific challenge. So the damage is not that high, but it does bring utility, and this is exactly what means Real Queen. A character that does not do that much damage, but can sustain for herself and bring some utility into the character. Well, there's not much to say, we only have some inheritance, and then the first one here is Offensive Liquid. Instead of being defensive, the first one here is called defensive, you get an offensive one that will cast morale up instead of guard up. This works depending if you don't need extra stuff, and then you have someone that will cast Ward Up in the party, so pretty okay. The same damage as well. Then she has Mirage Kick. This is actually amazing. We got this before with many characters, and some that are something good to say are Boston. The counter version of Boston has Mirage Kick, as you can see here, and intelligence is in 80s. That's actually still useful. And then another one is Copelia. Copelia is also another one that can use Mirage Kick, and her intelligence is even lower, so 70, then we go to 80, and then now we go for 90s, and it's actually the best version of the Mirage Kick so far. And because she buffs her status as well, that means that she has very good chance to inflict STR debuffs. For AoE, this can be helpful here and there, although every time I say this, debuff strategies are not as good as before. It still works here and there, and she debuffs 15% on max value. She can use it all the time since she also gets 4 BP per turn. And then the last attack is Jawbreaker. This is something we got with Rabbit. Rabbit from Romancing Saga 2 banner. She has it. Jawbreaker, as you can see, it brings medium effect for intelligence debuff. She has a little higher intelligence than Real Queen, but the damage is good. It's just 6 BP for 39 power. Then adding the medium effect debuff just makes it even better. And because, like you can see here, sometimes she gets even more BP, she can use this many times in a row. Can be used for single target intelligence debuffs and AoE STR debuffs just fine. But the problem with these skills is just that they can be found in other styles. All of her utilities can be found somewhere else. There's nothing here that makes her meta or just the best on what she does. She just brings plenty of things with just one style. Whereas you need to use 2 styles of Shira to get the max potential. Here you can at least open with Queen Punisher on turn 1 and then use it again on turn 3. That's her cycling, deciding if she wants to single target or AoE. So there's that. Real Queen is a mid-tier double S grade, not important, easy to skip, but nice for those that want something that they have been missing. Moving on, the next character is Dantarg, and he was a martial artist. Now he's carrying a spear because, yeah, he likes to switch weapons. We're not even gonna compare because they are super different. It's now focusing on STR and agility, and very good status for those two. Even endurance on 94%. This Dantarg can be used in boss fights, although he seems to be designed more for farming. You'll see more about that later. His will is 73, that's kinda average for today's standards, and love and charisma suffer, but don't worry, he does not use intelligence, dexterity is a little low, but should not be that much of a problem. Well, the martial artist style has arrows for agility, so that will help him farm that, so you only need those 2 styles. Now, the first passive is Strengthened Energy 2, increasing damage by 10% and starting the fight with 12, because he really needs 12, his mass attack spends 12. Then we have Engage 4. On the start of a round, it increases damage by 50%. That's kinda what Barthélemy did in the past, but he was only 30. Now this one is 50% damage increase. Pretty good for farming. Dantarg competes with Alosis, and besides that, for bossing, he just loses this. Now the last one is High Protect Tension. We just saw that in Real Queen. Decreases damage by 30 and increases the damage that he inflicts by 20. So in total, he gets access to 80% damage increase on the start of a turn. And then after that, he only has 30. Yeah, that's how Dantarg works. He wants to do explosive damage, and after that, he will just keep doing okay damage, but you may require a very strong weapon to make him powerful. Well, I guess we're going to start with the last skill this time. Blazing Fang is amazing. Yeah, it's one of the best skills in the game for roll. This one opens with deep power only and 10 mod. That's pretty okay, just a little extra than a normal, but has two elements, Pierce and Heat. And then he casts himself morale up very large. That will increase his damage by 40%. And then he activates Raging Fire Lance. This is a double S attack that hits roll with Pierce and Heat again. So the whole combination of damage here gets in like on the start of a 4S damage. That much, yes, indeed, because he buffs before he uses the nuke, and he already has an opener, and the damage will be insane. There are events where you only have one wave and the enemies are aligned in a row, so he can help a lot. I don't know if he will be able to solo one wave events, but he will be able to solo two wave events where the enemies usually has lower HP, but then after that he does not have any roll attack to inherit, so he opens, does what he wants to do, and then on the second wave he does nothing. That's kind of the way to balance him. But you can also use the older cycle. Scattered Sparks, it's a C power 16 attack that you can find on Primera 16, as you can see. It's on her off-banner styles. And this one has actually pretty high damage too. She has 60% and gets even more when doing overdrive. But she relies on having full HP. She's also pretty okay to use. But I do believe that the strongest competition for Dantarg is actually Alosis. Alosis has two different styles. The first one has a very strong opener that is, in this case, Slash and Heat. And then after that, he doesn't have a full AoE unless he inherits from the second style. The second style has Ground Trample that is actually pretty strong considering all the damage passives that Alosis has access to. They work pretty similar, and Alosis does have different rotations since he can open with single target and keep using single target or just choose full AoEs, but he's a character that has two different styles to reach max potential. Dantarg will just be focused on doing roll or just full AoE. For 3 turns, he can be used for story farming, or you can just open and use this explosive damage with Blazing Fang. Well, there are other fire roll attackers and also some other pierce attackers, although he's pretty powerful. I'll try to compare him to these. Okay, so here we have a filter on Naurama SaGa website by roll attacks, and we have a very powerful one with the last version of Grey. There's this Pierce version with a future Summer Coppelia. One that's pretty close is this version of Virgil that has Beat Blast. In his case, is a mix of Heat and Shadow. But the different thing about this guy is that he has a follow-up attack that's also roll, different than Dantarg that has nothing else after he triggers his best attack. For hit damage, it will be easy to find because of Proton Rocket Plus. We get access to this by Fuse, by Zeke, by T260G as well. Those characters will be very strong when doing hit roll damage. Besides, for Pierce, we also get a Platinum style of Cordelia, and there is also this version here with Izuna from Sparrow on the second banner from the SaGa, so it's not as strong as Dantarg. Dantarg is extremely strong with that. There will be other versions for other damage types, but I guess we are going too far. Dantarg is very strong and will be on the top of the damage with Blazing Fang. If you only consider the damage itself, it's triple S, but because he buffs himself for morale up before, like I said, it will reach very close to 4S damage for rolls. So you have to consider, is this good enough to summon for Dantarg? The damage will be explosive. Sometimes he will be able to solo stuff with a very strong weapon, but besides, he does not have after that. I mean, you can skip him in fun alternatives, For hit, you'll find plenty, for pierce, not as much. But there's it. He can still do pretty good damage with Scattered Sparks, although that is not so unique. As for Inheritance, there's one skill that actually makes sense. You go for his S style and he has Stomp. You can amplify that for Stomp plus, triple S attack with 9 BP, and he can actually use this on turn 1 and then on turn 3, and keep just using his Glitter Shell when he does not have access to Stomp. That is if you are desperate for blunt damage, because he's actually pretty sustainable and he has good STR and agility. Using martial arts attacks with him won't be a problem. Although it's only every 3 turns in between, he is going to use a normal attack with pierce damage. Well, another inheritance for Dantarg is Knockout, because this one uses 12 VP and it's 8 power. In the future, this one gets simplified to S, so he's actually going to be pretty strong on doing blunt damage right on the bat, but after that, he doesn't have any follow-up. Dantarg is powerful. Although he is extremely niche, you can still consider him as a single target damage dealer. Forget about row and just use him for single target, but in boss fights he loses engage 4 and the damage will be reduced by a lot, but still pretty good for those that miss it out on Pierce farmers or want to have a strong row attacker for the future. He's good, he's not bad, he will be receiving high SS grade in the tier list, but still can be skipped if you don't want to summon for him. Another important topic is that the Death Master Remembrance will require row attacks to get full potential. He's just going to summon minions, and then if you have this version of Dantarg, you're going to make the Spear challenge super easy. But in Spear, we already have Matriarch that makes anything doable there. So if you are thinking about summoning for Death Remembrance battle, it's just to make it even easier, because if you already have Matriarch, you're going to find methods to win even without Dantarg. And if you don't have row attacks, even AoEs will work, just have to use on the right times. Now, the next character is Kzinssie Human Style. This one is a hybrid sword user with shadow attacks. Yeah, he kinda needs to focus on many status, like STR, agility and intelligence. And because of that, he just has terrible endurance with 53 and terrible will with 45. It's been a long time ago since I last saw someone with such a low will, and because he used shadow attacks, it doesn't make that much sense, but he needed dexterity for, well, physical attacks, he needed a combination of agility and intelligence for spells, and that's why he lost so much. Okay, his love and charisma are nothing to write home about, so you just ignore most of the time, although he kinda needed more charisma to heal better since he's also a self-healer. He goes with agility and intelligence bonuses in arrows, so he's focusing more on spells. You can find STR with other styles of him at least. But moving on to passives, the first one is Impaired to Will. When landing an attack, he has 37% chance to trigger 2 effects. The first one is debuffing will of enemies by 20% and or also get 2 BP, so pretty strange, 37% chance. He's not reliable, but if you need someone else to just inflict even more will debuffs, he can work, although may require some restarts since it's RNG heavy. Then the second one is called Fatal Revenge. When he's directly attacked, he will reduce damage, it seems to be by 35%, and counterattacks with a skill called Fatal Steel. 37% chance to be attacked by direct attacks and countering. Well, we'll talk more about the skill later, but look on his endurance, is only 53%. Now, the last one is High Battle Tension, starts the fight with 11 BP and gets 20% increase in damage. This is very old and we don't even get passives like this, and this is the only one where he gets a damage passive. Damage here is not high, and starting with 11 is just because he wants to use a skill with 11 BP on start. Now, moving on to skills, the first one is Small Steel. This is actually pretty good. For 1 BP only, you have little extra than a normal attack, but it's only shadow damage, it's a spell, so it uses his agility and intelligence. And then he has a low chance to inflict unconsciousness, that is instant Q, and will also recover his HP by very small effect. That should be around 150 with this character. So, okay, to keep him alive and can even instant Q, but where do you want to instant Q with such a weak attack? If it fails, it barely loses damage, but if you have nothing else in Word Tower and you want to bring him, he can instant Q, but slowly, since it's target by target. I don't find much utility in real case scenarios. Then the second skill is Victim's Word. For 5 EP, he gets a double attack that was stolen from, well, Ludwig. Ludwig has access to the same attack. Victim's Word opens with single target B damage 21 mod that will just reduce HP from all other surviving allies, 10%. Why should you do that? And then uses Shadow Bolt Plus, that's C power, and uses the same rank of the Victim's Word. The damage here won't be that good because, well, Kzinssie barely has damage passives and he uses Sword skill and then a spell, needs to use an elemental weapon, and even then the damage won't be that high. The only effect you have here is stun. Since his agility and intelligence are pretty good, he can stun lock some enemies, although, yeah, he won't have BP all the time by doing this. There are better options in the game, so this is just there. Can be used to stun himself as well. Funny how Real Queen can paralyze the Real Queen and Kzinssie can paralyze Kzinssie. But there's plenty of stun attacks for swords. You are not losing anything by skipping this. And then the last attack is called Fatal Steel. For 11 VP, what you get is a high chance to instant Q. Well, this is the highest as you can get. And he has very good agility, he can instant kill some targets. And besides, it's triple S damage with Shadow Element and will recover his HP by medium effect. It should be around 800 since his love and charisma are pretty bad, and also recovers 1 BP. So, Fatal Steel is his selling point kinda, because it's the same attack that he uses when he counters with Fatal Revenge. So, this one will be only used at rank 1. Damage is not stellar. But if he counters, he heals and recovers BP, but only 1. That means that he can keep using this from time to time and healing to sustain damage, but he himself, if he does not counter and he does not trigger the reduce in damage, he's just gonna blow up and the enemies will kill him easily. He's a character that requires plenty of restarts till he works as purposed. So there is this problem here, and also it's just Shadow. Like I said, it's pretty resisted. If it was at least Slash and Shadow, you could have used him more often, but it's not. From Inheritance, you do have at least something. You have Shadow Chains, he can paralyze the Real Queen as well, if you want him to do, and there's Drain Energy, another skill that just recovers HP, so he can use this instead and keep with the shadow damage. Golden Dragon is a slash attack that gives him morale up, that's actually pretty good if you want to use, and then you can just resume to using Small Steel so you can use Golden Dragon again, but there's nothing special about this. You just increase the damage a little, keeps healing, and in long fights he's not a very good damage dealer because he does not have much damage passives or ways to increase his status. So he's kind of a replacement for those that missed out in many styles in the past. He's not exactly a full damage dealer, and the counter mechanic here is extremely niche. Sadly, Kzinssie has no competition on this, so I will not be comparing him to other styles. He's the only one that can counter with Shadow, but the utility of this is really limited. And that's why Kzinssie is going to receive only a low SS tier. That means that he at least performs as expected, but it's not a character that will be useful in the long run. So, sadly, there's that. There's no future version of any of these styles from this banner, so we don't need to check for more. And the question comes, is this banner worth to summon for? In my opinion, it's not much. It will only receive a bronze award, that being our lowest one, because although Dantarg is extremely powerful, he's a one and done type of character. The other AoE attack can be found in Primera, and that is not even that special. You can find alternatives when you want to use weak damage. Right now we want to get characters that can use 2 powerful attacks in a row or very explosive damage. At least in this part Dantarg works, and I wish I could summon for him, but I won't because I can see myself replacing him easily. And the Real Queen is not bad, she is a character that works by design. Another comparison is Shira, but Shira needs to style to perform on high levels. Real Queen works, although the damage may not be impressive, she is pretty defensive and survive in long fights. Kzinssie Kit is really questionable when you are going to actually use this in hard challenges, so that's why he's the lowest interesting character here. And if you want to summon because you like the characters, focus on either Dantarg or Real Queen. And in my opinion, the one that sticks the most is Dantarg. But that is my opinion. What is yours? Are you planning to summon here? Sadly, I'll be skipping. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you still haven't, and if you want to support the channel, there are links on the description of the video. I hope to see you soon in the next. Bye.